These are the stories topping the news. Family shopping list expanded, more VAT-free items. Cubans react to Fidel's view on talks with U.S. and Syrian and Iraqi Kurds battle ISIL in Sinnar. Good afternoon and welcome to ZIZ Midday newscast for January 28, 2015. I am JD Keynes. Now for a look at the news in detail. The family shopping list, which was rolled out in 2014 by Finance Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, has been expanded. Effective immediately, shoppers in St. Kitts and Nevis do not have to pay import duty and value-added tax VAT on several items. The items form part of three categories: balanced diet, health and hygiene, childcare and education. They include beef, fresh or chilled ham, mutton, pork, chicken, turkey and other meat kinds including fish, cheese, peas and beans, fruits such as grapes, apples, pears and kiwis, cereals, cornmeal, flour, various oils, pasta and ketchup. Items within the health and hygiene category include but are not limited to body lotions, shampoo and conditioner, toothpaste, mouthwash, deodorant, soap, detergent and toilet paper. Childcare items include Pampers, infant formula and infant juices. The much talked about injunction case that was heard in the High Court last week and continued yesterday, Tuesday, left a number of Team Unity politicians with sad faces when Madam Justice Marlene Carter discharged the injunction. The courtroom was packed with opposition politicians, including Team Unity leader the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, the Honorable Sam Conder, Senator Vincent Byron, Honorable Eugene Hamilton, Ian Liburd and Lindsey Grant. Following the announcement of Justice Carter's decision, the opposition politicians and many known supporters were seen with shocked and or disappointing looks on their faces. It was not the same for former St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party SK-NLP candidate Cedric Liburd, however, who was seen smiling along with known SK-NLP supporters who sat nearby. During the sitting, Justice Carter expressed her dissatisfaction with the very lengthy presentations made by attorneys, particularly Douglas Mendez, who represented the applicants in the matter. She called on the attorneys to prepare detailed written submissions to avoid lengthy oral presentations in court. The four applicants in the case were Honorable Mark Brantley in his personal capacity and as a representative of the Concerned Citizens Movement, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris in his personal capacity and as a representative of the People's Labour Party, the Honorable Sam Conder in his personal capacity and as a representative of the People's Labour Party, and the Honorable Sean Richards in his personal capacity and as a representative of the People's Action Movement. The respondents were the Constituency Boundaries Commission and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, who were represented by Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan, Dr. Henry Brown QC and Sylvester Anthony, and the Attorney General of St. Kitts Nevis as representative of the Governor General. He was represented by Lord Peter Goldsmith. Candidate for the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, the Honorable Roberto Hector, has described 2014 as a year of failure for the governing Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM on Nevis. Speaking during a radio interview on Tuesday morning, Hector listed a number of projects that he said failed as a result of what he describes as poor leadership.
That in 2014, the present NIA's incompetence had reached its highest point, the zenith, the eyrie, as some might say. We witnessed the continued victimization of persons in low-paying jobs. We saw the failure of the Nevis Island administration to meet even its monthly wage. And of course, a blame game began. We saw in 2014, and we are not to forget, an unusual sale of 10 acres of land to an Iraqi citizen. And the funds were directed to the account of a senior minister in the NIA.
Hector said the Ministries of Health and Agriculture also suffered significant blows, with projects being halted. He said that those projects would have diversified the economy in Nevis. We move now to news on the regional scene. People in the Cuban capital, Havana, say they agree with former leader Fidel Castro's cautious approach to renewed talks with the U.S. Julie Knows reports.
Cubans in Havana say they support former leader Fidel Castro in his cautious optimism on reestablishing ties with the U.S. Earlier this week, Castro said that while he didn't trust U.S. policy, he does support a peaceful solution for the two countries. Castro's statements were printed in Cuba's Communist Party newspaper.
I trust in our supreme leader who, after all of these years, has a clear vision in terms of everything that has happened between our country and the United States.
It's needed. I think we as a people over the last 50 years have been under a blockade that limited us in a lot of things, and people are seeing there is a chance for this to change.
The U.S. and Cuba held historic high-level talks last week that are expected to normalize diplomatic relations that were severed by Washington in 1961. Castro, now 88, took power in a 1959 revolution and spent much of his 49 years in power railing against the U.S., which never managed to oust him.
In Trinidad, former Attorney General Ranish Lawrence Maharaj has called on the Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, to remove House Speaker Wade Mark and Attorney General Anand Ramlogan. Speaking at a news conference at his San Fernando office yesterday, Maharaj said the Prime Minister has to take action if she is serious about governance. Maharaj also called on Mark and Ramlogan to resign. On the issue of Mark, Maharaj said, quote, "What the Speaker did was not an ordinary error. What the Speaker did was a grave injustice to the people of Chaguanas West and to the country as a whole in preventing a Member of Parliament from moving a motion of censure against the minister." Last Friday, Chaguanas West MP Jack Warner abruptly ended his presentation in Parliament after he was told by Mark he would not be able to raise an issue because it was not part of the motion of censure brought against Finance Minister Larry Hawaii. Mark told Parliament he had been informed by the judiciary of a matter involving Hawaii, which was before the court, and therefore debate on the motion was sub judice. On Monday, the judiciary said it had not communicated with Mark. We move now to news on the international scene. ISIL's main supply line, which links its strongholds in Syria and northwestern Iraq, runs through the outskirts of border city Sana'a. Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga fighters face ISIL with Syrian Kurds who came from across the border and the US-led coalition airstrikes to help fight their common enemy. Despite that, Iraqi Kurds, who have had a long history of rivalry with those parties, accuse them of wanting to impose their authority in Sana'a. Al Jazeera's Zaini Cord reports from Sana'a.
This is the only way we can approach Sinjar city. It is controlled by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. And sniper fire is almost constant. ISIL's main supply line that links its strongholds in Syria and northwestern Iraq runs through the outskirts of this border city. The group cannot afford to lose it.
The fight for Sinjar city is now in its second month. It is a vast area. Some 100,000 people used to live here. But even before the fight is over, a new battle has already started.
Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga troops are not facing ISIL alone. Their brethren in Syria came from across the border to help fight a common enemy. The PYD is a Syrian Kurdish party that is linked to the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or the PKK. The Iraqi Kurdish leadership, which has had a long history of rivalry with those parties, accused them of wanting to impose their authority in Sinjar.
We welcome anyone's help, but it seems the PKK has a plan. They want to benefit politically, and it is not acceptable. Sinjar belongs to the Iraqi Kurdistan regional government.
For now, however, Kurdish forces are cooperating on the battlefield. The fighting is street by street. We went to a PKK base inside the contested city. Fighters say they are here to help the Yazidis and Iraq's Kurds, but suspicions between the Kurdish parties run deep, especially since the PKK's allies established an autonomous region in eastern Syria.
We never talked about creating our own enclave here, but Sinjar will belong to either the Kurdistan regional government or the Baghdad government.
Sinjar city is home to the minority Yazidi community. They remain camped on Sinjar mountain, where they were trapped for months before the ISIL siege was broken in December. They too are an armed force. Some praise the Peshmerga for defending Sinjar. Others blame them for allowing the area to fall to ISIL in August. But most are now demanding autonomy.
We won't accept any force, not the Peshmerga, not the Iraqi government here.
ISIL has been pushed out of many of the Yazidi villages on the outskirts of Sinjar, land long disputed by the Kurds and the central government in Baghdad. It is still the case, but now there are more players vying for control here. Zana Khuder, Al Jazeera, Sinjar.
Investigators in Mexico say they are now certain that 43 college students missing since September were killed and incinerated after they were seized by police in southern Guerrero state. The Attorney General on Tuesday cited confessions and forensic evidence from an area near a garbage dump where the September 26 crime occurred that showed the fuel and temperature of the fire were sufficient to turn 43 bodies into ashes. Al Jazeera's Adam Rainey reports from Mexico City.
Mexico's Attorney General says there is no doubt what happened to the 43 students.
The evidence allows us to determine that the students were kidnapped, killed, burnt, and dumped in a river.
He cited 39 confessions, including this man's. Felipe Rodriguez says gang bosses called him to dispose of the students on the night of September 26th. In addition to confessions, the conference was completed with slick produced videos and reenactments, all to add weight to the Attorney General's argument. But it's unlikely to convince a skeptical country. Protests like this one on Monday continue to call the government's argument into question. So far, forensic experts have only identified the remains of one of the students. Fire experts and parents say there's no way 43 people were burned by a few gang members at this dump.
We don't believe it, I think, because yesterday they saw many people marching in the street, but they want to close the case.
The conference came after President Enrique Peña Nieto gave a speech earlier on Tuesday in which he said Mexico could no longer be held back by that awful crime.
There needs to be punishment for those responsible for these unfortunate events. But we need to take the path in the direction of continuing to move forward to ensure that in Mexico, the best is still to come.
The truth is, many Mexicans don't want to move forward. Many here believe that federal police and the army participated in the attack. If anything, Mexicans say they want an even fuller accounting of what happened that night. He didn't say case closed, but the Attorney General did make clear he was convinced he had all the necessary facts to prosecute the case. In the coming days, that certainty will surely be called into question by a skeptical public. Adam Rainey, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
Turning now to the weather, temperatures today will reach a high of 25 degrees Celsius. We can expect sunny to partly cloudy weather conditions with just a light passing shower. Late tonight and overnight, there is a good chance of some showers developing over the islands. Winds are east-southeast at 9 to 14 miles per hour over land and increasing to near 17 miles per hour at times over coastal waters. Sunset for today will be at 6:04 p.m. And that wraps up ZIZ's Midday Newscast. Join us this evening when we'll have the details to these stories and more in our major newscast. I have been your presenter, JD Keynes. Have a great afternoon.